And there may be a necessity for some R&D, although I'm the first one to say that the patent tail should not be wagging the R&D dog. And adding value is at the center of our process. Okay, now with this idea of adding value, let's see what we have to do in order to reach that. Excuse me. First of all, we have to understand the client's business. I know patent attorneys who say you don't have to understand the client's invention. And some of them are very successful. But I think not only do you have to understand the client's business, but client's invention, but you have to understand the client's business and how this invention or group of inventions fits in to that business. Is it peripheral to the business? Is it central to the business? Is there something in what he invented that will keep people out? Or is it just improvements? I say just in quotes. Is it just improvements to what already exists, which gives him an edge up, but doesn't really keep people out? So you have to understand what his business is, what the competitors are doing, how much bigger the competitors are than him, how much R&D they're doing. We have people who come to us with well-established businesses in which the amount of R&D that's being done is not very large, and we have people in which R&D is practically the whole business. And you have to try to forecast what the competition will do in the presence of the invention. I wrote the invention, the competitive product, but sometimes it's how they will try to avoid the invention. I want to tell you to understand that, I want to tell you a personal anecdote. I was in charge of development of digital subtraction angiography. It's just a word. It's looking at the arteries using digital means, but X-ray, for LSINT. And then when LSINT started to break up, I left. And LSINT became my client when I was a patent attorney, when I first became a patent attorney. And in 1998, LSINT broke up, sold out parts of their business. And quite surprisingly to me, since they were no longer in the business that I had developed, they had continued to pay the patent fees, the maintenance fees for their patents. And we sent them a bill for maintenance fees, and the new owners who were in the real estate business said, "What is this?" And I had been out of that business, out of the technology for 15 years, and I didn't know whether those patents were valuable or not valuable. I went to a conference, and I saw that everybody was infringing my patents. It was a very interesting feeling. I went to a friend of mine who was a litigator, who I had worked with before, and I said, "Everybody's infringing my patents." And he said, "Oh, go away, Paul. Every inventor says that everybody's infringing their patents." So I said, "Well, I'm not an ordinary inventor. I understand a little bit about it." We looked at it, and in fact, everybody was infringing our patents. We sued General Electric, Philips, Siemens, Toshiba, Shimatsu. Everybody paid. LSINT, when we sent the first check to LSINT, they said, "What is this?" I said, "I told you you'd get a lot of money." They said, "Yes, but we didn't believe you." So what I'm trying to explain is that if the patents are futuristic, look toward the future. Look toward where you see the developments are going to go. Then you have a good chance of building something that's valuable. 5 minutes. Okay. A good patent portfolio is a scary patent portfolio. It has to scare people. If it doesn't scare people, it isn't doing its job. It has to scare potential infringers, potential competitors, others with patents you may be infringing, the story that I told you before. But it's not easy to prepare a scary patent. You have to really work to prepare a scary patent, or more so a scary patent portfolio. It has to be narrow enough so that it's valid, but it has to be broad enough so it's infringed. And somewhere in between there, hopefully, is where you have a patent that's valuable. So having done what the inventor has done, you then have to decide what is new and non-obvious. Okay? The inventor, unless he's very experienced, hasn't a clue to what's new and non-obvious. He will point you to things which are not distinguishing over the prior art, over what other people did in general. And then you have to generalize on more than one level. You have to take what you consider the core of the invention, describe it in your mind at first in general terms, but not just in the most general terms, because probably you won't be able to get protection for anything that's that general, but in various levels of generality until you get down to the actual device that the client has brought to you. But patents are written in a fog of uncertainty, and that's the hardest part. They're future-oriented, and they have to be directed toward future needs and future problems, even though you don't know what they are. Second, you're limited by the prior art. Unfortunately, you don't know what the prior art is. Searches are not reliable. And I like to say that the only time you know whether your patent is valid is after you've sued somebody for the third time and succeeded and they haven't been able to invalidate it. Because patents get invalidated the second time you sue somebody or the third time you sue somebody, because remember, your patent is first examined by somebody who makes $60,000 a year, and when you sue somebody for $10 million, he spends $20,000, $50,000, $100,000 in searching, and he gets a completely different result. The field is always changing. So when you write a patent, you have to try to think, together with the client often, what is to be expected in the changes in the field, and to try to cover that in either in general terms or sometimes in more specific terms. Ideas arise which might make your patent irrelevant. But if you think about those ideas or think about the directions that things might take, you might be able to write what you're writing in a way that will cover those ideas as well. And last, and certainly not least, the law keeps changing. It is a moving target. The patents that I spoke to you about, where we collected a lot of money today, would unquestionably be considered invalid because of the way they were written. But for the time, they were absolutely correct in the way they were written. And that's a variable that is very, very difficult to predict. So, patent one of the problems is that you have to disclose much more than you want to. And what happens is you disclose everything without any real knowledge of what protection you're going to get and how good that protection is going to be. So you have to disclose everything. You have to disclose, in the U.S., the best mode, at least according to the present law, although that may be changing. You have to disclose the best way that you know of performing the invention. You have to disclose ideas that are not completely developed, because someday in the future you may want to claim those or consider that those are part of your invention. You always give people ideas as to how they could make a better product, avoid your patent, do all those things. And you almost always have to disclose your trade secrets. And that is, in some fields, a very difficult problem. So the patent application has multiple readers that have to be impressed. There's the client, who, by the way, generally his English is